Carnivore,
Vegan,
keto,
Mediterranean,
intermittent fasting.
raw food diet.
Oh, there's so many, I don't know which one to do. If you've ever felt this kind of frustration and you're curious about what's the difference between all these diets, which one is right for you, do you need any of these kind of diets? We're going to find out here as we talk about the different kind of diets and then healthy, practical, common sense tips that you can use to stay healthy, lean, and strong.
All right. Well, let's stick a fork in it.
I keep it rocking like promise. I'm way too turned up on a mission. Ain't no sitting in silence.
It's to electrify the shop.
Find the muscle you're hiding hard at the pressure. I bring the pressure to the bitch. I don't ride and see me live. Get it right. Free your mind. We got some living to do. We bring it big from a coma, make them sick. You know he flexing when they ask you who you with. We gon' rep it for life.
Rock solid, rock solid, rock solid. We becoming rock solid. Hey.
There's so many diets out there. It seems like every other quarter of the year, there's a new diet fad that's popped up. Everyone's on that train. And it just seems to get so overwhelming, especially for a lot of our clients.
Yeah, well, I don't blame them. You know, a lot of these influencers that people follow online, they seem like they have to make their whole identity about their diet of the day. And, so many of them will do one of these diets. They're all carnivore for a year, and that's their whole identity. That's all they can talk about. And everybody else got it wrong. Everybody else is ridiculous. And then a year later, maybe they had some complications from a diet. Maybe they started getting some negative side effects. Maybe it just wasn't sustainable. They just, wanted to start eating carbs like any normal person would. And now they switch gears, and now their whole personality is about this new diet. And that's the answer. And that's the only way and the only possible direction that people can get healthy.
Yeah, and it sucks when we got to confine ourselves into a box and into a label, and that totally just dictates everything we say and do, and your whole life revolves around eating.
Yeah.
And what you're eating.
And again, when it makes it your identity, that really closes you off to any other new information or any information that is outside of that one set of narrow rules that you've put yourself in, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, here's the thing. Those diets all work. They'll all help you lose weight, especially if we're coming from the SAD diet, the standard American diet. And so you've been eating just the processed foods and the fast foods, and you've gotten fat and unhealthy. You've been following no rules, right? Just eating from pure instinct and desire and satisfaction of your lower animalistic desires. If you go from that state to now you're following a set of rules, especially if one of those sets of rules just eliminated 90% of the food you've been eating, right?
Yep.
If you've been eating a standard American diet and then you go to, say, a carnivore or a keto diet, and now you've just eliminated carbohydrates completely from your intake, that takes a lot of stuff off the table. And so all those cookies you were snacking on and all those potato chips you were snacking on and all the high sugar processed foods that you were eating is now just out of your life. Obviously, you're going to make some good changes there.
Yeah.
Right? That makes a lot of sense. And so it'll work. And so, the things about these diets is they are each just a set of rules. And if you're somebody that needs like a strict set of rules to follow, and that's the only way that you can eat healthy because you're so used to being addicted to these processed foods, then following a set of rules is going to help you eat less and therefore lose weight.
Yeah, no, totally. And I mean, I can see the allure of it. They all seem to tout certain benefits and stuff. Carnivore can, clear up a lot of, immune problems and issues. Vegan, of course, there's a big moral standpoint on that and everything. Keto, I know keto has helped some of our friends lose some weight as well.
So keto started because they found it was good for some different health conditions. I think like epilepsy, Parkinson's, a couple others, diabetes, obviously. You stop eating the carbohydrates that gave you the type 2 diabetes in the first place. And so it has some good use there. And if you're somebody that has one of those conditions, then absolutely go explore that. But it crossed over into just kind of a mainstream diet lifestyle again. And it's just, we had the Atkins diet back in the early 2000s, which is just low carb. It's just low carb rebranded,
Yeah.
and now we're having a little more fat or a lot more fat with the keto diet's supposed to be like 80% fat or something like that is the original kind of keto diet. And so, it's a whole spectrum of low carb diets, carnivore, keto, different, that's all protein and fats only. And so at different ratios, et cetera. But anyways, these are people that got themselves into really bad shape. You ate yourself into type 2 diabetes by having way too much sugar throughout your life and every day. And now you take that away, guess what? You're going to get healthy. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's following a set of rules and, eliminating all the processed foods and the junk foods. And now you're just eating cleaner. And we could say the same about, again, carnivore, just kind of a low carb version, or you're eating just animal products. Now you're not eating Little Debbie snacks and, all this other stuff that you were eating before.
Yeah, no, totally. And there's, the vegan diet, which I followed for a little bit. I tried that whole vegan-ish, attempt at it, seeing if it was good for me, right for me, at the time. And this is when Beyond Meat came on the scene before it got purchased by Bill Gates and they sold out. So actually the ingredient profile of it wasn't, a lot left to be desired, but it wasn't that horrible. But now it's just, I find with a lot of like vegan diets, all these fake foods and everything, like vegan eggs is just nothing but high inflammatory oils like soybean oil and everything in there. There's no sustenance to it. And I find a lot of people are going to be nutrient deficient if they're not doing it right. And a lot of people have come off of vegan diets and went back to eating meat or tried meat for, maybe the very first time and have had such a monumental change in their health because of it. But I tried vegan-ish for a little while and I'm actually really glad I switched back. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah, well, there's the moral case for
Yeah.
veganism, and I emphasize with that. I can understand people's take there, and if I let myself, I might even go down that empathy road too far. You know what I mean? But I think it's been shown that it's just not the way to build the most powerful, strongest body. Obviously, right? So I don't judge vegans. I just, I think they judge a lot more than I would judge them. And so I would just ask for the same kind of understanding in return.
Yeah.
But, we could get into the whole philosophical of eating meat and whatnot. That's probably a different conversation.
Yeah.
But, eating in the way that makes our bodies the strongest, most powerful seems to be most in tune with nature, if you ask me.
Yeah, no, totally. And like I said, my personal experience with it didn't really last that long for me. There was the big moral standpoint, but at the end of the day, I felt better eating real whole foods,
Yeah.
that include meat.
Right. And I think that's the key here is getting into just eating whole foods. Once you make that switch from the standard American diet of the prepackaged foods and the convenience foods, and you just switch from that to whole foods, like that was the only rule you followed, you're going to make some pretty good progress right there.
Yeah.
Like your body's going to start to get healthy pretty quick. You're going to detox from all those chemicals and all those poisons and all that excess sugar and stuff that you've been eating for so long, and you probably see some quick results just from doing that. Like that's kind of the first step when I start working with somebody on a diet. Just take them from the standard American. First, let's just get you onto some whole foods, and then we'll start getting into the details of that a little deeper.
Yeah.
So I think it helps to first kind of understand the principles of weight loss. And in general, that's calories in, calories out. That's the easiest way to look at this. And you're going to get a whole bunch of people saying, well, it's hormones and it's all this other stuff. Yes, if you've eaten yourself into a place where you've messed up your hormones because you've eaten yourself into obesity for the last 20 years and now your hormones don't work, then yeah, you might have to address some hormones rather than just trying to starve the weight off. So there are some issues there. But in general, it's very helpful and practical to look at weight loss as calories in, calories out, meaning you've got to have less calories coming in. So the calories in is the food that you eat, the calories that are coming in from all those meals. And then the calories out is the food that you're burning off. You're burning off through exercise. You're burning it off through your basal metabolic rate, which is the calories you burn just sitting, just being awake and alive, even asleep. You burn it off through digestion. And so there's a few different things that kind of go into this calories out part of the equation, right? And so if we can lower the calories in and increase the calories out, you start to put yourself into what's called a caloric deficit, and that means weight loss. And so if you look at Ozempic, right, the hot new diet drug, that is just appetite control. And so that's just reducing the calories in. People start to get into the starvation diet is, one of the issues with Ozempic. If they're not eating protein, they waste all their muscle away too. And we'll get into a little bit more of that later. So even when we look at diets like intermittent fasting works because it just shortens the window. For those of you that aren't familiar with intermittent fasting, that's giving yourself like a 4 to 8 hour window each day that you allow yourself to eat, and then fasting for the rest of that time. So somebody might eat from noon to 6 p.m. and then the rest of the time they're fasting. That's intermittent fasting. And the way that works, again, they've done research on this, and it primarily works because it's just reducing the calories in. So you are now eating in that 6 hour window. All those late night snacks you were having, all that constant intake of carbohydrates, raising your blood sugar, you stop doing that, and you're giving your body a chance to kind of run on body fat for its energy source.
Yeah.
And you're not eating a surplus of calories to cancel all that out through that short window. So that's the kind of the main thing to keep in mind. Calories in, calories out. Again, that's why Ozempic works. That's why all these other things work. That's why our high metabolism fat burner works. That helps with the calories in through its appetite control, and then it helps with the calories out through helping you burn fat through multiple pathways, through body heat, through raising your metabolism, etc. That's the kind of the main principle to understand. And so if you're having trouble losing weight, move more, eat less. I know it sounds simple, but it really is a powerful concept once you can put it to use.
Yeah, it's little baby steps, and I get it. We're living in a society now that it's Amazon Prime. We get results today, tomorrow. We get it when we want it, and then we got to wait for it. It's just, it's one of those things that we have to have that patience. We have to have that faith in oneself. We have to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And, results don't happen overnight. We didn't get to the overweight status that, we are when we get to that desperation level of taking something like Ozempic and really wanting to lose weight fast. That didn't happen overnight. That happened over years of accumulation of eating unchecked and letting yourself get to that point. So we have to be gentle with ourselves in that process of making progress towards that goal weight.
You didn't put on the weight overnight. You're not going to take it off overnight. And you put it on steadily. You're going to take it off steadily. Excellent advice. Yes. So in lieu of following a fad diet, let's talk about kind of my philosophy on just having a overall balanced diet that I think is a lot more enjoyable, a lot more practical, and most importantly, a lot more sustainable for most people, right? You may do the carnivore, but how long do you really want to go without eating any carbs the rest of your life? I mean, that sounds absolutely miserable to me. I've done low carb, competing.
Yeah.
Like it would help me get on stage. I'd, drop those last couple pounds of fat sometimes by going low carb, but it sucks. I wouldn't want to do that. Carbs feel good. They power my workouts, etc. And then there's so many good foods to enjoy that are carbs.
I know.
And to just not have any of those the rest of my life sounds awful.
Gotta give up the sourdough bread.
Sourdough, fruit, etc.
Yeah.
So, the way I see it is, we have protein, fats, and carbs. That's where the majority of your calories are coming from. One of those three, they're called macronutrients. And so your body needs all of those, okay? There's a reason that they all exist, and they're all part of our food chain here. We need protein, first of all. That is amino acids that makes up our muscle mass. Your muscle is a protein, right? It's meat. Just like that meat from the cow is the cow's muscle. You eat it, their body transmutes it into your muscle, okay? And those amino acids, each one of those amino acids has a whole bunch of different other processes that it does in the body. But it's, you can look at it as building blocks of protein, though, building blocks of muscle. So we need protein first and foremost. And then we need fats too. Back in before the low carb diet, it was the low fat diet.
Yeah.
Turns out we need fats for all kinds of different processes in our body. Our brain needs a lot of fat. We need fats for testosterone to produce, to have a healthy hormone system, etc. So you can't let your fats get too low. That's a recipe for low T and a list of other problems. And carbohydrates, you can survive without carbohydrates on just protein and fats, but carbs are also our most efficient energy source. They're what makes up the muscle glycogen that we burn off when we exercise. And so if you want to build muscle, if you're lifting weights, which you should be at the same time, we can use carbs to help that process.
Yeah.
Okay? And so it's about using them strategically. So let's talk about each one of these groups a little bit here. So first we have protein. As I mentioned there, protein is muscle mass. It's the same thing. And so protein should be the basis of every meal. And so when you think of like what should you eat for a meal, it should be centered around the protein. And when we're talking about protein, we're talking about meats, eggs, whey protein. There's a number of different sources that you can get protein from, Greek yogurt, etc. So that should be the main focus. You know, you want about 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal, ideally. That's about, you know, you can also kind of think about the size of the palm of your hand as a good serving of protein when it comes to like a piece of meat or something, if you were to just eyeball. And then we have carbohydrates. So carbs get a bad rep, and I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about carbohydrates. And it's a whole long conversation, and we can't get into all of the details here. But in general, carbohydrates, they break down and they turn into sugar. No, sugar. People are so scared of sugar, but sugar is all up in your body. It's in your muscles. It's in your brain. Your brain is like constantly burning through sugar. So when sugar gets into the bloodstream, it's called glucose, your blood glucose. And then when it gets stored into the muscle, where the muscle can use that for energy, it converts into what they call glycogen. So glycogen just means stored sugar. For each gram of glycogen that goes into your muscle, it takes in 3 grams of water. So every molecule of sugar attaches to 3 molecules of water and then gets stored in your muscles. And this is how muscles take shape, or a big part of the reason why muscles take shape. That's why bodybuilders look the way they do. They pump carbohydrates into their muscles and water, and they get that nice, plump, juicy muscle look, right? And so that's there for aesthetics, is a nice side effect, but it's there for muscle energy. That's stored energy for your muscles so that they can handle those high volume weightlifting workouts that they do. And then fats, that's your nuts, your avocado, your different oils. Again, very important. These are mandatory. Your body needs these good fats for a number of reasons. Your brain, your hormones, your joints. There are a whole bunch of different processes in your body that require these fats. So you want to work those in too. Let's just talk about some of the ways that we prepare these foods for ourselves and to make it more practical for people to eat whole food versions of these macronutrients in the right combinations. So I think first we'll go into protein, because this is the main staple of each meal, or should be. It's helpful to just prep a bunch of different proteins at once. Okay, and so there's a few different ways that we like to do that. Chicken breast is obviously one of the leaner sources of protein. That's a common staple in the fitness world. Different ways that we prep chicken breast. I like it in the slow cooker, for one. I think that's one of the better ways.
Yeah.
You just take a crock pot slow cooker and you pour water on it. You can throw some spices and seasonings on there. And then you just turn that on for, how long does it take? 4 hours or something?
Depending on high heat, low heat, it's about 4 hours. You can do like a longer cook with it overnight if you're getting up early in the morning. I like to do that as well. But it's one of those things, you just set it and forget it. The house smells great, and you've got like juicy, moist, flavorful chicken boobs ready to go.
Yeah, you just turn it on before you go to bed. Put your chicken in the crock pot, water, spices, turn it on for like 8 hours. And go to bed. Super, super easy. And then you wake up and the whole house smells like Thanksgiving dinner. It's just a treat. And then you've got a couple days worth of chicken breast, or at least that day, however much you want to cook there. So that's a really good strategy. It's also really easy to just throw them in the oven too for 45 minutes if you want something a little faster. I think they cook pretty well there. They hold the moisture a little bit better that way than on top of the stove or on a Foreman grill or something like that.
Yeah, I don't really Foreman grill the chicken breasts these days anymore. Dries them out too much.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of the Foreman grilling, but that really does dry it out so much. And the oven in the crock pot is so much better. So the oven, what do? You put them on a cookie sheet. It's like 375 for like 45
baking dish.
minutes.
Yeah, thereabouts,
Baking dish,
375, 35 minutes or so for in the oven, depending on your oven's temperature. But yeah, super simple. And then there's turkey breast, lean turkey breast. You usually get like, the 93%
Ground
or
turkey.
so ground turkey, and that's super simple. Just throw it in a frying pan, pre-grill some red peppers, mushrooms, onions, throw in the ground turkey, cook it in there, season it up, and then you've got a delicious base that you can use, again, with rice, sweet potatoes, eat it on its own. I actually even enjoy eating it like that over top of a salad, cold if you're on the go and you don't mind. So that's really versatile as well. And of course, a really good quality source of protein too. And then too, for on the go, I really enjoy boiling my eggs for hard-boiled eggs, and you take them on the go rather
That's a
than
good one.
spending money at the grocery store on the pre-done ones that are like way more than the actual dozen of eggs. Just boil them, and then you can just crack them, take them with you. They're literally like protein to go. It's awesome.
It's not that hard, guys. I think people just grew up in this age of convenience, and they're just like, think it's so much work to prep their own food,
Yeah, and it's a time thing, but we got to make the time for it, and you got to find that time, whether it's Sunday, Saturday, midweek, cook the food. I know it's one of those things we got to find yet another slice of time in our busy day, but it's so much worth it, and that way you're not going to be making, these decisions at gas stations and grabbing a donut or grabbing a wrap or going through a drive-through. You've got these healthy meals already prepped and made.
That's an excellent point, and that's a great idea that I talk to my clients about too. Is if you've got your food prepped, you've got a meal with you. It's when you're just caught off guard, unprepared, and all of a sudden the hunger hits, and you're like, "Oh God, I gotta get something now." That's when you end up in the gas station convenience store trying to look for something healthy in there, which is impossible. And that's when you end up at a drive-through at a fast food restaurant or something.
Yeah, no, totally.
But had you had that healthy meal or healthy snack with you, then you wouldn't have to resort to that. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I think whey protein is the easiest way to get the protein and the most flavorful. It's kind of like a highlight of the day. It's a nice little treat. Mm-hmm. And so using that as a quick snack or using that for your quick breakfast. And another really good protein source is the grass-fed Greek yogurt.
Yeah, I enjoy it. You enjoy it.
Oh,
you really
man.
enjoy it.
Here is, take down this recipe. Thank me later. It's just, you take the grass-fed Greek yogurt, you throw in a scoop of the protein. I like our maple cinnamon French toast is really good. The vanilla cake batter is really good. Chocolate's really good. You really can't go wrong. But you throw protein into the Greek yogurt, and then I'll put a splash of milk or maybe a splash of cream on there. Stir that up. And then, depends if you want fats or carbs. If you want fats, you throw in some walnuts or some pecans or some type of nuts. If you want carbohydrates, you throw in your blueberries or whatever kind of fruit that you want. And that is better than ice cream. It is so delicious.
Yeah, it's so tasty and so easy, and it just tastes like dessert. And you're getting a protein-packed meal right there.
So if you need a late night snack, a little late night treat, it doesn't really get better than that.
Yeah, especially with the yogurt base on that. So I'm going to be slow digesting throughout the night, keep those muscles fed. So
Feed your body those amino acids while you're sleeping and you're in that recovery mode. You're going to wake up a little stronger, a little leaner.
oh yeah. And what next?
And then for carbohydrates, talk about some different ways that we like to prep our carbohydrates. I think the easiest and one of the most commonly used is just rice,
Yeah.
white rice. And to do that, you just get a rice cooker, super simple. And the rice cooker, you just throw in 1 part rice, 2 parts water, hit the switch, walk away for 15 minutes, and then you've got a couple days worth of rice there.
Yeah. And that's, again, your preference. There's been research now that whether it's brown or white rice, it really actually doesn't matter. I think for a time there back in like the early 2000s, it was all about the brown rice, if you remember that.
It used to be like nothing but brown rice back in the day.
Back in the day.
But yeah, it turns out, white rice is just brown rice with 1 part removed. And so that has some fiber in there, but that's okay. But there's apparently some arsenic in that too that they remove. And so white rice can actually be a little healthier.
Oh, goodness.
Without the arsenic of brown rice.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so there's a variety of rices. I mean, you get this black cracked rice.
I get the black cracked rice, and that can be a little harder to find. I get ours off of Amazon, but that with a little bit of soy sauce and some Celtic sea salt and I do a little bit of butter on that.
It's really good.
So good.
It's a little more nutty,
Little more
kind
nutty.
of, I guess. But yeah,
It's
it's
delicious.
different. Yeah.
And I like it. And that'll clean you out.
It's got a little different texture.
That'll
Got some
clean you
fiber
out.
on there. Those
That'll
husks.
clean you out.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's sweet potatoes. I have some fun with that. I make sweet potato fries. So I peel them, cut them, soak them in some water for 30 minutes, get out the rest of the starch, dry them off, throw them in the oven for, 40 minutes, like 375 or 400 in there. Again, it all depends on your oven. But I make sweet potato fries with them. I haven't used an air fryer in a little bit. We've got to be careful about air fryers now with like some of the harmful chemicals that are coming off of them. So I've reverted back to using the oven versus an air fryer until we
Just
get
wouldn't use it on the daily, at least.
Yeah.
If you're doing it once a couple times a month, it's probably not that bad. But
Yeah.
if you're living out of the thing, you might want to reconsider.
Yeah. So, minimal use on that, but use the oven a lot for that. And then we got the fats, the good fats, your avocados, your MCT coconut oil, your nuts, macadamia nuts, some cheese.
Cheese is a good source. Dairy. I'm all for the dairy. I know some people are against that, but I grew up on a dairy farm, so I just feel like my body just thrives on it myself. So that's a good source. Yeah, a variety of nuts, macadamia nuts, pecans, walnuts. Throw those in that Greek yogurt whey protein bowl that I talked about earlier. And so also you can just throw the good fats onto your salads or your vegetables. You can use olive oil, avocado oil. You can also throw some balsamic on there as well. And so that's a way to get good fats down. Avocados are a really good source. So having, about half an avocado gives you about 15 grams of fat. So either a quarter or half of avocado, depends on your day. And so what you want to do is eat healthy whole foods most of the time. But once in a while, you're going to want to treat yourself to a restaurant meal or something. I like to talk about the 90-10 rule, where you're really good following the whole food diet 90% of the time. And then you can allow yourself a little bit of freedom there too, to enjoy life and have a social life, etc. And so if you're really good every day of the week and you go have one meal, cheat meal, I like to call it more of a refeed meal, you're not going to be too far gone. When you're in a caloric deficit, a lot of times we're kind of steadily depleting the glycogen out of our muscles throughout the week. And then we go eat that cheat meal, that refeed meal. You're just going to replenish all those stores and you're going to make those muscles nice and full again. But there are some things that we can do to help mitigate any fat gain from those restaurant meals. So the first thing you can do is just make good decisions when you're eating at a restaurant. And so that just goes back to our keep your meals protein focused. Look for the steak or the chicken breast or the piece of fish on there. Try to avoid the fried food. Try to avoid the super cheesy and rich food, the big bowls of pasta and the things that have a ton of different ingredients in there that are just high caloric meals. And just make good decisions. You can even order a la carte a lot of times. If they make a chicken breast sandwich, that means you can probably just get a chicken breast and a salad there if you wanted to. And so don't be afraid to ask them to order a la carte, even if it's not necessarily on the menu. Most restaurants will make accommodations for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't be afraid to be that person in the restaurant. I am all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're eating restaurants regularly, definitely try to make good decisions. But for those occasions too, when you're going to go to a birthday party and you're going to go have some pizza and ice cream, or you just want to not have to worry about anything and just go enjoy yourself a nice rich meal, here's two things that you can do to help mitigate any fat gain from those. One is to do some exercise that day, particularly weightlifting. Go have a good weightlifting session earlier in that day, and then you can use those excess calories to help turn into muscle mass rather than body fat. We're going to deplete some of that glycogen out of our muscles, and now when I go eat that high carb meal, I've got somewhere for all those carbs to go. I've got room inside my muscle to take in all the sugar that's going to come from those carbohydrates. So that's the first tip. The second tip is to just eat less calories earlier in the day, right? Remember the calories in, calories out. That exercise is going to help the calories out for one. But we can reduce some of the calories in for that 24-hour period. Maybe we skip lunch earlier, or we skip breakfast, or we don't have any snacks, or we eat lighter for those meals. But we have less calories then, expecting to get more for that restaurant pizza party meal later in the day. and then you're going to kind of even out for your day's worth of caloric intake.
Yeah, and that works for family get-togethers around the holidays as well. Go get in a lift beforehand and enjoy that meal with the family. Well, I hope this has helped cut through the noise with all of the diet overwhelm that can be out there and trying to make good decisions, the best decisions for yourself and your goals. So I hope we've given you some actionable steps that you can take and apply to your routine right away.
And if you want to dial this in a little tighter and you want to have a nice kickstart to make some fast progress and take all the guesswork out of all of this for you, then you should consider joining us for our upcoming transformation challenge called the Rock Solid in 6. This is just a 6-week period. You're going to have me as your online coach. I'm going to take care of your nutrition plan for you. I'm going to work with you. I'm going to find some foods that you already enjoy, foods that you already are used to buying that are kind of in your wheelhouse. And we're going to construct you a diet plan that's going to help you shed body fat while putting on muscle mass. And I'm also going to make your gym routine for you and teach you my mind muscle method so that you can lift in the most effective way for building an aesthetic body with muscles that have shape and definition.
And I'm going to be your mindset coach and help you become unfuckwithable and stop the self-sabotage and move the needle closer to your goals.
So if you're interested in joining the Rock Solid in 6 Transformation Challenge, you can just send me an email personally. It's Sean, S-E-A-N, at rocksolidnutrition.com, and I will send you more information on this upcoming challenge.
Also, if you've been thinking about getting on Ozempic, or maybe you just want to stock up on some great supplements, we've got an offer for you. Use RockSolid20 at rocksolidnutrition.com, and you can get 20% off our high metabolism, or our grass-fed whey protein, or even our Endure. So it's up to you, but that's our gift to you guys for tuning in.
All right, thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you on the next one.
Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe.